All right, time for our first weekly update. Today is February 1st, 2021. And last week in our Washington State Legislature, there were three bills that moved from one chamber to the other. The first one, moving from the House, would be House Bill 1121. This is granting the emergency waiver for students, similar to what happened last year. This would apply to juniors and seniors for this year. That would allow some school districts to waive some of the graduation requirements because of COVID-19. Through no fault of their own, the students would not have to meet some of the requirements. So this is going to be no different than what it was at the end of last year. There are some questions regarding accountability for districts, and some Republicans raised some concerns about that. And the Democrats were not as concerned about it. But when it came down to the vote, the final vote on the House floor was 85 for and 11 against. So it looked like everybody was on board with that something needs to happen. The biggest issue from the Republican side was that there's no accountability, so are we just going to pass kids on? And that's a viable concern, right? We don't really know. We don't want to just pass kids on just because we don't like them, because that's never happened before in the history of education. So it just kind of takes away some of that responsibility, and we just hope that educators will continue to do the right thing and make sure kids are meeting certain requirements. The second bill is going to be House Bill 1131. This one passed the House floor 96-0. That one is in regards to private schools, and because of the emergency, they were not able to fulfill all of their days. So it puts in a provision that due to emergencies or something like COVID-19, that it's okay for those schools to not meet those requirements as long as they get approval. So that one went through really fast. That one probably will have no problem in the Senate. The biggest bill that had some issues was Senate Bill 5044. This is regarding our cultural competency training. I try to say that 5 times fast. It's really hard. Cultural competency training. So we go through that on a yearly basis, and it's one of our 3 professional development days that teachers are required to go through every year. So this bill adds in a piece about dismantling systemic racism in the public schools. The debate was rather interesting. I don't recall hearing anything in the testimonies or the hearings regarding that they didn't want the bill to pass at all. The issues, again, surrounded this were kind of split down the middle of how do we want to roll this out? Do we want to just do a general OSPI, here you go, give the training to the schools, or do we want to give control to the local school districts, since every school district is in a different spot as far as it goes with cultural competency? So the vote for this one on the floor of the Senate was 30-19. There was one Republican that voted for the bill. And again, the issue is not about the bill itself. It was about how we're going to roll it out. Give it to the local schools. It's what the Republicans wanted, local school districts. The Democrats wanted more of an overview from OSPI to provide those training materials. Now, the districts would have some options through OSPI of how to roll this out. But again, we go back to, as a teacher who's been through this, being my 20th year, it's something I've seen come through a lot where the state tends to mandate things of teachers. And one of the comments that I had some concerns about, made by one of the senators in the executive or the floor vote and the floor discussion debate, was talking about the values. And when parents are not teaching their kids the values, then it becomes the burden of the state to teach them. The danger with that is you don't want to alienate people by saying that these values are better than somebody else's values. And I don't know who's going to decide which values are appropriate. So as a teacher, it can be quite difficult to teach something that I may not personally believe. Now, as far as being trained in systemic racism and cultural competency, I think there's some value in that. But I just don't want it to be the burden, and this is going to fix our society by training teachers and staff and school board members about these things. Everyone's at different levels. Every school district's at different levels. And to give blanket training doesn't seem like it would be accomplish what the state is looking for. If we really want to find some change, we got to find the root of this. And so okay, great, we're providing some training for teachers, but I don't know if that's going to solve any problems. It might provide some insights to some people that weren't aware of some things going on. But again, I just don't think it's going to solve what the legislature hopes it will. those are the 3 bills that have passed. Superintendent of Public Instruction has also come out with some 10 agenda items that he has given, maybe not given, but talked to the governor about doing. And hopefully I'll get to read into that a little bit more and provide an update as far as that goes for next week. So that is the weekly recap for the first week of actually having some stuff go through the floor votes and move to the other chamber.